Come get your backpack.
Boots and pants and boots and pants.
New shoes. Get yourself an outfit. Denim.
Boots and pants and boots and pants.
Haircut. New shoes. So get yourself back to school with these heels.
Haircut.
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Dad Malls, your one home for the coziest mall documentaries and everything retail related. In tonight's episode, after the bliss fever dream that was Giuseppe Mall, I trekked down into northwestern Missouri, bound to see a small city's historical shopping jewel. Well, that's what it was supposed to be, and what it was for the longest time. But St. Joseph's East Hills Mall, or East Hills Shopping Center, now sits completely dead, dark, empty, and a hollowed tomb reminding those who walk through of the decades of life which once filled its halls. But before I spoil too much, I'd like to take a moment and shout out our winner, who was able to successfully guess the next mall. Very nice job slacking packing. If you'd like to have your chance of being shouted out in the next episode, stick around for the next challenge. Anyways, let's get back to school with, dive in here, take a look at, and tell the story of St. Joe's East Hills Mall, and see how it was doing as of my visit in May of 2024. East Hill's story as one of the first fully enclosed shopping centers in Missouri begins in St. Joseph, when the site was just miles of cornfields. In the late 50s, talks to build a shopping center began, but these ideas circulated more around a large downtown mall, as at the time, downtown St. Joseph was still a powerhouse in terms of the city's retail focus. However, it was the beginning of its economic slump, and blight would soon become a serious problem, as more businesses moved to the suburbs. City officials wanted to revitalize it all, but these plans for a downtown mall just never got through the red tape. In 1959, plans for Pioneer Plaza, a massive indoor shopping center on the east side, would first sprout up, but sort of remain in limbo, as taking that big of a gamble wasn't something city officials had fully committed to yet. Most retail was still pinpointed in downtown, but in '63, that would all change. Now, when I first walked in and saw quite a few people bustling in and out between JCPenney and off-Broadway, I didn't know if this mall was at that stage of deadness to film yet. But then I did a double take and realized I had stumbled in on the only side of East Hills with any life. As you'll see when we leave this giant atrium of immense proportion, which was the mall's original structure, it gets a lot darker, a lot emptier, and a lot more liminal. I'm not sure exactly what this sort of pop-up shop station was before, but it was a wee little trip to walk through, as I was puzzled by each of these rentable baby-sized mall stores. I remembered seeing a video about a dead mall in Canada not too long ago, and it sort of reminded me of that mall with its little mini stores. Does anybody know what mall I'm talking about? In 1963, JCPenney announced that they'd be moving into and building a brand new anchor store at what was to be the brand new East Hills Shopping Center. The mall was spearheaded by Abramson Gross Realty and Kansas City-based Copacan, who you may remember from a few other episodes, as they built several malls across the US Midwest in the late 1960s. And it would, in a way, mirror the success of those early park-like malls, which welcomed a community town square-esque atmosphere, akin to the likes of Gruen Southdale in Edina, Minnesota. East Hills would begin construction on September 1st, 1963, at a cost of $4 million, with opening planned for March of 1965. Was this to be yet another tale of how a brand new regional mall killed off its city's downtown? Yes, it was. But as said in the past, the future of retail was in these community hubs, and St. Joseph's residents patiently waited for their slice of the American dream. The site for the new regional glass mall was chosen at the corner of Frederick Avenue and North Belt Highway, at the time just farmland extending out towards I-29. Like mentioned previously, there was little to zero retail out this far, and soon the mall's structure took shape amidst a sea of brand new concrete. Junior anchors to announce moving into or opening new stores in the mall included Hirsch's, Safeway, Cat's Drug, Woolworths, and a new second anchor, Montgomery Ward. As winter of 64 became spring of 65, that opening date grew ever closer, and new tenants all over the mall were preparing their fabulous displays and neon signs, waiting for the day that the new mall would finally be filled with life. Welcome everyone to the 88 Court, which, as we'll get to in the history, was an addition to nearly double the size of East Hills. Back then it looked a lot blander, but this area looks a lot nicer after the modern renovation, giving us the huge wooden clad vaulted skylights, stained glass drop light fixtures, and the children's play area, which was only ever home to a guy who took a nap there for a majority of my visit. See if you can spot him when we come back. But this area especially was only home to a collectibles store, a Maurice's, and a closing Route 21. which this video was filmed shortly after they announced they were closing the remaining 543 stores, leaving yet another empty store on the already dotted directory of East Hills. On Thursday, August 19th, 1965, East Hills Shopping Center would officially open its doors to the public, and what the residents of small-town Missouri and the surrounding area found was a home away from home, an oasis of shopping and fun, and a new destination hub for anyone passing through the area. At just around 450,000 square feet of retail space, stores to open with the mall and be situated amongst its boxy park-like atmosphere included Joe Opticans, Gales Fashions, Playworld, Tom McCann, Record Rendezvous, McDonald's Shoes, Topsy's, and Calander's Hallmark, amongst many others. In all, 42 stores operated under East Hills' roof, with its center courts decked in several benches, fountains, globe lighting, trees, planters, sculptures, and other simple town square aesthetics. Upon opening and going into its first few years of operation, East Hills would become the place to be in St. Joseph. Whether you were grabbing food at Woolworth's Luncheonette, shopping the newest style at Butler's, or just strolling amongst its beautiful dancing fountains, it was all at East Hills, and it would catapult the East Side suburban sprawl. A year after opening in 1966, a brand new one-screen mall movie theater would open under the name of Fox East Hills. Not much would change over the mall's first few years. Throughout the 1970s, East Hills would excel and thrive, with its park-like hallways and giant atriums usually found packed with curious shoppers, mall walkers, locals, and passers-by. And for quite a while, no matter what you were doing in St. Joe, you were most likely doing it at the mall. In the early 1970s, Cat's drug would become a Skaggs drug, And that was just about the only notable change over the 1970s, as at the time the mall still featured those park-like aesthetics from opening day. However, as time went on and newer, more modern malls were built, these aesthetics were simply seen as outdated. And so, after being dropped by Copacan in 1975 into the hands of the Belt Highway Investment Company, planning for a new renovation would begin. No, that footage isn't tampered with. That's actually just how dark the mall was, with management relying a lot on natural light for this place. This old Sears down here is just about the brightest area in the entire mall, still being lit up all of these years later by an aging skylight and adorned in several wall murals. Makes me wonder how old the stores are behind those walls though, and just how long ago were they covered up? Beginning in the spring of 1981, the mall's central court area would be completely redone, with several feet of earth jackhammered out for a new recessed center court stage and fountain display. The mall's ceiling would also be completely redone to feature several new vaulted skylights. JCPenney would also remodel their store, expanding and bringing it up to the modern standard. Some new stores to join the mix included GNC, Record Town, Athletic Attic, and Walden Books. In September of 1981, East Hills Mall would officially reopen, now up to that modern standard. But little did St. Joe's residents know, but by the end of that decade, the mall was going to get much, much bigger. As we begin the walk back down towards the original mall, there was just something so unidentifiably creepy about this long hallway connecting the two areas of the mall. It was only ever sparsely dotted by the occasional mall walker and otherwise dimly lit, and filled with dozens of empty storefronts. But do you know what any of these stores once were? God knows I was guessing the whole time. In May of 1985, Skaggs would become Osco Drug, and soon after, plans were unveiled by management for East Hill's next major expansion, and this time a true expansion. 2 new anchor stores would join the lineup along with a brand new south wing. In June of 1988, 45 acres of additional land would be purchased to double the mall's size, and over 88 and into 89, work would begin to overhaul the mall, bringing in new Italian marble flooring, new street lamps, paint, and dozens of new stores, some of those being Jeans West, 579, Foot Locker, Mr. Bulky, Tape World, A&W, Coach House Gifts, and several others. Dillard's would dedicate their store first in March of 1989. And Sears would round out the mall's grand reopening with their new store in September of that same year. Going into the 90s with all of these additions and decades of improvements, you would think East Hills would thrive into a new decade. But really, quite on the contrary, as the 90s is where the mall's older tenant base would finally begin to fall through. As early as January of 1990, Hirsch's, a long-standing icon in town, would close their doors with the space never reopening. The mall's Fox Theater, after several years of declining sales and people never showing up to see movies at its one outdated screen, would close its doors, showing their last flick in November of 1990. The one screen sandwiched between the mall's bathrooms and A&W would quickly be stripped away and walled off, never to reopen. Welcome everyone to the East Hills Food Court. This would have all once been the original mall, given away most by those huge vaulted ceilings, but now it's home to quite a few closed stores and historical exhibits. One of the old stores here has been turned into a sort of prairie flower museum, complete with everything from boat wagons to real-life pioneers. Be sure to stick around for that.
What the heck, man?
Throughout 1995 and 1996, several tenant leases were coming up, with many choosing not to renew. Struggling brands like Woolworths closed on January 31st, 1996, along with Jeans West, 579, and Edison Brothers. By 96, the mall was plagued with over 18 vacancies, a number which was steadily growing. Why? Well, the hallways of East Hills, as described in several newspaper clippings from the time, were usually just empty, and so many of the mall's long-standing pillars of retail in the modern age were just withering husks of brands waiting to close. Some rumors of Dillard's closing would spread around this time, but thankfully they would stay. What more folks should have been focusing on was one of the mall's original anchor names, and a massive store, which going into a new millennia was about to close every single one of their locations. As we get into the food court here, I implore you all to kick back, relax, maybe find a spot to take a nap like this upcoming security guard was. Yeah, there may only be one food option, but hey, can you say you've seen a more dazzling modern-style food court? We're gonna put a pause on the history for just a bit as we explore this entry hallway near JCPenney, which was entirely reconstructed in an upcoming renovation and wouldn't have been here originally. At one point, this would have been the old Hirsch's, but now it's home to an abandoned party city and the mall's historical timeline, which I thought was so neat. More malls need to do things like this, but I'll leave you guys to enjoy it.
That music land thing is so cool. That is so cool. ANWFYE, Mr. Guys. Dillard's Big Al's Record Rendezvous. OG Stores. Tommy King. Sorry Shop.
On July 15th of 2000, Osco Drug would close their doors for the final time. Then, that same year, Montgomery Ward, a staple at East Hills since it opened 35 years prior, announced they too would be closing their doors for good, doing so on February 19th, 2001. For a short time, Target was rumored to move into the space, however, these plans would never come to be, and the giant space would instead sit empty for several years. By the end of 2001, East Hills was a miserable place, and management saw that. Attempting to stay ahead of the curve, the mall would be remodeled once again. In March of 2002, the same contractors hired for the 88 expansion would be brought back in, this time stripping the recessed fountains and covering the entire area in a grayish carpet. Carpets would actually take over many portions of the mall, covering old planters, benches, and trees, which were all taken out. The lampposts which dotted up and down the mall's halls would also be taken out. The most notable addition, however, were the several new geometric shapes which dotted up and down the mall's hallways and amid the skylights. The central court, which had its fountains stripped away, would have its skylights completely stripped out and replaced with several geometric designs. A super cool look that I wish I could have seen in person. New stores to join the mix included Gadzooks, American Eagle, Journeys, and FYE. Through 2002 and into the early 2000s with these renovations, East Hills did manage to find its footing a little, but by 2005 would fall off once again, as St. Joe's newest shopping village would open. In 2005, the Shops at North Village, a massive outdoor big box complex, would open on the northeast side of town, just 3 miles away from East Hills. Several mall tenants such as Famous Footwear, Payless, and Lane Bryant would all move to the new retail strip, leaving the mall and several of its older, outdated brands behind, in a forgotten sea of oversaturated retail. Through dozens of store bankruptcies, depleting foot traffic numbers, and a looming recession on the horizon, East Hills was at an exodus, and management saw where the mall was headed. Despite all of the renovations over the years, it was still that big old outdated boxy husk of old empty stores, and it was time for something new, and thankfully, action was quick to be taken. As we take one last jog down and around this geometric court, I was once again swept up into East Hill's intoxicating atmosphere. Honestly, I could have been here all day, just wandering around and finding all the little hidden areas, and just standing underneath of those giant vaulted skylights. In early 2007, the first mentions of a mall-wide renovation would pop up, with ideas circulating around a large interior remodel and the addition of several new specialty shops. By October of that same year, plans had gone public. Soon mall owners, MD Management, requested $45 million in tax increments to cover a third of the $128 million renovation cost, which would see East Hills completely transformed into a new age. By January of 2008, reconstruction hit the ground running, and East Hills would strip almost every facet of its facade, interior and exterior. Over the next 2 years, the entire mall would be completely redone, which wasn't easy in itself, as several delays plagued the process, and more stores would either leave or cancel their plans of reopening. Walden Books, KB Toys, Gadzooks, Coach House Gifts, and FYE would all leave. Despite this, renovations would finally be completed in November of 2009, giving us the mall you see today. Wood flooring and aesthetics, colored lighting, a new play area, a new 6-bay food court called the Sun Porch, and a few new stores, those being Victoria's Secret, Justice, PacSun, The Buckle, and Taco John's, among several others. Each of the anchors in the mall's exterior, save Dillard's, would be extensively renovated, which you'll see when we do our little drive around at the end. All in all though, East Hills would become almost unrecognizable from its past life, and despite adding several new stores, it would once again begin to struggle. In 2011, Gordman's and Dick's Sporting Goods were announced to take over the former Montgomery Ward space. However, Dick's would cancel, leaving Gordman's to solely fill the space. Despite all of these additions and the renovations that were still brand new, East Hills just wasn't drawing in the large crowds like it needed to stay afloat. The Sun Porch would only ever attract 3 venues in its lifetime, with the other food stalls walled off over time, some of them never used. In June of 2014, MD Management, after decades of ownership and several failed attempts to bring them all back, would sell East Hills to Craig Realty, who, aside from bringing in Party City in 2015, gave us those iconic terrible commercials in 2014, which became so viral for a short time, it's really all the mall became known for. But alas, 10 years later, we can still look back on these amazing commercials, which would have been broadcast over St. Joe's TV screens all those years ago.
Mall mushy, mall chiefy, mall crunchy, mall silky, mall fluffy, mall blowy, mall lucky, mall blingy, mall talky, mall yummy, mall hawky. Get to the mall, y'all. Get to the mall, y'all. Get to the mall, y'all.
In May of 2017, Sears, after several years of poor store performance, would close their doors at East Hills as the next major anchor to depart, and they would in a way begin the mall's final death spiral, with more stores soon closing all around the old Sears area, spreading like a plague. But the real death blow, and the final nail in the coffin, as I'm sure many locals can agree, was the pandemic of 2020, which saw the mall shut down for a majority of the year, and dozens of name brands leave. Journeys, Annie Ann's, American Eagle, Pink, Champs, Christopher & Banks, and dozens of other name brands would all close, as few of them saw any opportunity in the dead mall. Gordman's would leave that year of 2020 with the company's complete liquidation, and Dillard's would follow suit, closing in August of 2022. Finally, Party City would shut their doors in April of 2023, leaving East Hills as you're seeing it now in 2024. Kept open solely by JCPenney, Bath & Body, Maurice's, Chinix, and a few other pop-up shops. How much longer can East Hills go on like this? Really, your guess is as good as mine. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all so much for joining me on this short little expedition down tonight to St. Joe. East Hills was a mall that slipped my radar for the longest time, but after seeing photos of it emerge online recently and seeing the dire straits the mall was in, I just knew I had to get down and make a visit before those doors closed for good. And it was well worth the 5-hour drive. If any of you are ever in the area, get to the mall, y'all. Stop in, shop the last few name brands that are left, and take a stroll around, as I did on that beautiful May day. If you guys enjoy my Dead Mall videos, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future Dead Malls episodes. And if you want to support further, consider checking out the Patreon for sneak peeks and loads of bonus content. Next week we'll be live at a mall of your choosing, but 2 weeks from now we'll be back once again, this time checking out a beautiful sunset-filled mall in the suburbs of the Windy City, which itself was on its last day of operation. Guess which mall we'll be at, and I'll shout you out in the next episode. But until then, have yourselves a lovely evening, and peace out, guys. See you later.
Is this the Sears? Yes, it was. I have never seen a Sears building ever look like this. It's so strange. You could never tell me that this was a Sears. I